Let's take a minute to settle in, leaving aside all the baggage of the day. We have this time together, so make space for it by resolving not to think about things that you have to do later or that came up earlier. If they do show up, we'll work with them. To begin with, we're going to place your attention on your breath. Particularly, put your attention at the tip of your nose and feel the sensation as the breath starts to enter the body on an inhalation. We're not just going to look at or count the breaths. We're actually going to sensitize into the body a little bit before we go on to do the main part of the meditation, which will be about working with emotions. So to begin with, notice the air around the tip of your nose, and as you inhale, feel it enter the nose, and try to follow it as deeply into the body as you can. Notice as it comes in, if you can feel any sensation on the back of your throat. Notice if you feel coolness on the roof of your mouth. How does it feel in the throat? Does it feel cool, warm, abrasive, soothing? Right now, we're only focusing on the inhalations. So you don't have to force your breath to be long or deep. Just keep watching it as it comes and goes. And every time an inhalation arises, follow it as far in as you can feel. Do you notice the breath going down into the chest? Can you feel your lungs expand, pulling in more and more of the air? Can you feel the chest expanding, the front, the back, the sides? Can you feel how the ribs stretch to accommodate the lungs? Can you feel your diaphragm expand to pull in the air, like it's creating a vacuum to bring in the life-giving oxygen? As you inhale, can you feel your belly push out and expand to make room for more and more of the breath? Notice any sensations of muscles contracting or expanding. Notice any tingling sensations or vibratory sensations. Notice any feelings connected to the breath in your entire torso. chest, and belly. Now notice on the exhalations how your belly contracts, pushing the air that you don't need anymore, pushing the waste products of the air back out through your nose. Feel the contraction all the way through the chest, and feel the air going back up your windpipe, up the throat, and back out the nose. And notice any sensations that are connected to that breath. Now, keeping both the inhalations and the exhalations in focus, notice your shoulders and your arms, and notice any sensations that appear in them. And if something feels different after an inhalation and after an exhalation, can you feel the inhalation bringing in more energy, more pressure, more sensation, maybe even a feeling of expansion, even in your arms, even in your hands, even in the tips of your fingers? Notice anything that you can feel on the inhalation. And then as you exhale, notice what changes. Is there any more relaxation? Is there any letting go? Any release? Any feeling of quiet or calm? Even if it's just a brief second before the next inhalation begins. And then move your attention to your legs and your feet and do the same thing. Notice if you can feel any change in sensation between the inhalation and the exhalation. You're not forcing anything to happen. You're just taking note of it. Now expand your awareness out so that your whole body is in view at one time. Feel it like a whole cloud of pulsating, changing sensation. And can you notice that the whole dynamic of the body changes depending on whether you are inhaling a breath or holding and pausing a breath in between the inhalation and the exhalation. And then when you finally exhale the breath, and then the pause after the breath has been expelled, and that little gap, that little vacuum of waiting before the next breath begins, see if you can notice any changes in the body. Now, hopefully you have a feeling of grounding in the body right now, because we're going to work a little bit with emotions. And contrary to what we normally believe, emotions are not located in our head. An emotion is a combination of two things. An emotion is a physical sensation or group of sensations in the body and a thought about them. And the thought is our label for them. The thought is all of our reasons why that emotion exists. It's the narrative of what must have triggered it. It's a liking or not liking of the emotion. It's a pushing away if it's an uncomfortable emotion, and it is a clinging if it's a positive emotion. And it's all the thoughts and the worries about this emotion never going away. Or if it's a positive emotion, that it's a fear that we're going to lose it. But no matter what, those thoughts are only thoughts. Those labels are only labels. What we can always come in contact with, no matter what the emotion is, are the physical sensations that correspond to and comprise that emotion. So if you're like most people, you already probably have some thoughts running in your mind right now. Let's actually try to put a thought in there so that we can work with it. Bring up an issue for you that seems not too strong, not too painful, but something which causes you concern, something that causes a feeling of worry. And instead of getting locked into a story, talking about the issue, see if you can just hold the issue in your mind for a moment. If it's a situation with another person, maybe picture that person or picture a mental image of the situation. And then immediately drop into the feelings in the body. Use your internal sense to scan around and see exactly what you feel. If you have a sensation of worry or anxiety or fear, where does that show up for you in the body right now? Strip the label off and just get acquainted with exactly where in the body is the experience that we label and call fear or anxiety or worry. Where do they actually occur? Scan your face, see if you notice tension any place. Scan your neck, scan your shoulders and see if you're holding any tension or if there's any contraction in the shoulders or the back, maybe the chest. Feel into any tingling, any burning, any queasiness, any feelings of tightness or stuckness. And whatever is arising, it's perfectly fine. It might be uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. We often forget that just because something feels uncomfortable in the body, it's not physically injurious to us. We don't have to worry that every emotional sensation is really going to kill us or really going to harm us in some way. We sometimes react as though that's the case, but it never is. We don't give ourselves the credit that we deserve to be able to handle everything that comes our way. So we can do a couple of things with these emotional sensations. To begin with, we can give them space. And that means exactly what it sounds like. So notice where these sensations are appearing in the body. And if you need to, if you're losing those sensations, just re-trigger the sensations by thinking about the person or the situation one more time. Get the primary sensations moving again. And then feel them, but notice that they are not the only thing in experience, that they're located maybe somewhere in your chest, maybe in your face, maybe in your neck, maybe down in your legs. Maybe you have tension or tightening up of the feet, of the thighs, whatever appears for you, it's all fine. But notice that they are a finite sensation. They don't describe and contain the whole world. They are simply small pockets of vibration. So widen out your attention to feel the spaciousness around those sensations. To notice that there's actually a distance between what seems to be you and those sensations. There's a very real fact here that an eye cannot see itself the way that a knife cannot cut itself. And in this way, a thought or a sensation cannot experience itself. And what that means is that the emotion or the physical sensation of the emotion is not who you are. It's not synonymous with you. You are a bigger awareness in which those sensations are temporarily occurring. So again, if you need to, think of your situation and let those feelings come up and zoom back out to allow whatever is there to just be there. We're making space for anything that arises. If we push back on it, it's like a cork in a bathtub. No matter how much you push, it's always going to pop back up. So we're not resisting any of this. If it feels really uncomfortable and you notice that you are diverting to other thoughts to try to distract yourself from it, or if you are having the urge to move around or physically distract from it. That's okay. Have compassion for yourself. Have compassion for the fact that it is uncomfortable, and it's okay that it's uncomfortable. We're human beings in a human body, and that means that life won't always be comfortable, that we will get sick, we will experience suffering, and we will die. At least the body will get sick, and the body will die. But there is a way of experiencing sickness and loss and sadness and even our impending death from a space of complete acceptance. There's a difference between trying to push something away with positive affirmations and trying to make yourself feel good, and the alternative of just making room for everything that appears. And by doing this, you'll notice a few things. One is that everything is temporary. Everything changes instant by instant. And what feels so uncomfortable and oppressive right now will not last longer than seconds, unless we keep stoking the fire of worry, of fear, of anxiety, of depression, with the fuel of thought. It will burn itself out in moments. So no matter what arises, just feel it in the body and recognize that the label of whatever it is not the thing itself. The label is purely a thought. And if you feel like you are the thinker or you are the thought, remember that an eye cannot see itself. A knife cannot cut itself. A thought cannot recognize itself. There is something else which notices these thoughts. And there is something else which witnesses these thoughts. You are never your thoughts. They may speak in a voice that sounds like the one that you recognize as your own. But the more acquainted with your voice you get, the more you realize that it's also not your own. It may come out of this body, but you are not controlling the words. You are not thinking the words before they come out. There is something which hears the words after they've been spoken and takes credit for them, but that's not you. And every time an emotion arises and you notice this emotion and you immediately label or feel some sort of connection to that emotion, take a moment to step back, get some space around the feeling, separate the label from those sensations, and come directly into the body to see what's really there. And notice that there is no such thing as fear. There is only a cluster of sensations in the body. There is no such thing as anxiety. There are just sensations in the body. There is no such thing as worry. Those are just thoughts. Thoughts that trigger certain sensations in the body. So no matter what is happening, you can always come back to something in the present. Anxiety and worry and fear cannot exist without thoughts about a possible future. So you can always recognize that if you are thinking about something that might happen, you are not present now. You are lost in the future. If you are worried about what might happen tomorrow or in 10 years or in 5 minutes, you are not present with what is. Drop back into the body. Feel it rooted to the ground. Feel any sensations that appear. And recognize that you are not those thoughts. You are not those worries. And those worries and anxieties are meaningless because you have no idea what is going to happen at any moment other than the one that is happening right now. And if you get lost in thought, then you're not even aware of what is happening in the moment right now. And the moment right now is the only moment in which we can live. Another option that we have when we feel negative or positive emotions is to take the opposite approach, and instead of zooming out from them and allowing them to exist with space around them, we can actually zoom into them, really see what they are. So again, take an emotion that you like. You might want to try even a positive one for this, but it's up to you. If you feel like working with another difficult emotion, please feel free. Pick a topic that causes a sensation in the body. And wherever that sensation is, just pick one area of it. There might be something in your chest. It might be something in your belly. It might be something in your neck or your head. It doesn't matter where it is, but we're going to pick one of those sensations that is related to the emotion that you have stirred up. And you're going to focus all of your attention on the borders between that sensation and the space around it. And then as you feel those borders and feel whether it is a solid, tangible thing, or if it's more like a dense cloud of particles, allow your attention to infuse into it. Bathe it with the light of your awareness. And notice if what was once deemed an uncomfortable sensation starts to break up and starts to lose some of that connotation. Does it lose some of its label of being unpleasant? If it's a positive emotion, does it lose some of the label of positivity? How can we really determine whether a sensation is positive or negative or neutral? Is there anything that if you put your attention on it, doesn't just become a rather fascinating experiential mystery? Can you even define what was once so solid of a sensation? The more you let your awareness infuse deeper into it, the more you'll notice the cloud-like nature of that sensation. The fact that it's moving around, that it's never stable. And so again, we have to ask ourselves, what is the emotion that we think is so real? If it's just a thought, a label, and some physical sensations, and if the physical sensations, when seen with close enough attention, are nothing but clouds of dynamic particles of movement, and if the thoughts themselves are just images or sounds in the mind, thought by no one and heard by no one, what is that emotion and why is it taken so seriously? Why do we allow it to control our lives? Why do we take every thought and every emotion as being a true harbinger of the future, of reality? Of something which is expected to dictate our behavior in the world? Why do we do any of that? This is why we keep coming back to feelings in the body and to dispassionately witnessing the breath and dispassionately witnessing the physical sensations in the body and dispassionately witnessing every thought that comes and goes. Because the thoughts blow through our head, they blow through the open space of the mind like clouds that have no relevance to the sky. They neither stain the sky, nor leave marks, nor tear the sky, nor leave any impression from moment to moment. You can't tell that the sky has ever had a cloud in it when there are no clouds in the sky. And you can't tell that the mind has ever had a thought in it when there are no thoughts in the mind. So we can find places of distance and refuge from the turbulence that comes into the body from a human life. Because human lives are always going to have some turbulence, but it doesn't mean that we have to be swept along with the winds of change. We can safely sit back from a calm distance and watch them blow from the safety of another floating cloud. Or we can zoom in deep into the actual winds themselves and realize that as solid as they seem to be from the outside, inside there is nothing that we can call a wind. There is nothing that we can call a cloud. They are just collections of movement, collections of particles. They are a dynamic flow, and they are constantly changing. There are no creators of them. There are no makers of them. There are no witnesses of them. If you're in a situation where things become overwhelming and you can't find the space to sit back and watch the sensations, and you definitely can't find the courage to dive deep into the physical sensations themselves, there are still some other things that we can use in the moment to remove a little bit of our suffering. One of those things is to find any physical sensation that is neutral or positive in the body. So you can quickly, in the moment when things are cascading out of control, come down into the body and find a space that feels good or that feels calm. It might even be a space where you can't really feel any sensation at all. And try to put your attention on that good space, on that neutral space, or on that space with no sensation at all. And allow that to become the bulk of your experience for a moment or two. If you can, even notice it expanding out, allowing the neutrality or the positivity to radiate throughout the body, and give yourself a moment of comfort, a moment of stability, and a moment of peace away from the turmoil of thoughts and deeply uncomfortable physical sensations. And if coming into the body is too painful, because sometimes it can be, sometimes we're really afraid to see what's inside the body. So if that's the case, in a moment when things are really difficult for you, you can focus outward on something in your environment. Depending on where you are and what's available, this might take the shape of looking at an object in the room that you don't have any particular attachment to. It doesn't have to be a nice object or an unpleasant object or a favorite cherished object. It doesn't really matter. Just a neutral object. And take in every detail that you can, tracing it with your eyes. Maybe trace the outline of the object with your eyes, especially if it's a big object like a couch or a complicated object like a fancy lamp or statue or sculpture. Just idly Put your attention on that object without thinking about it or labeling it, and just focus on all of the details of the color, the texture, the shapes, the outline, and let that bring you back to a moment of calm. Working with the breath might help in those situations. And if so, just make sure that your exhalations are longer than your inhalations. Twice as long can be very helpful. But if counting stresses you out, just pay more attention to the release of the breath and put more emphasis on that than on the inhalation. Now, I touched on it a moment ago, but if you are somebody who finds that getting in touch with the body is uncomfortable, that every time you tune into it, there are feelings of deep sadness or grief or some sort of pain or longing, and it keeps you out of the body and it keeps you retreating back into your head, it's okay. I understand. Can you bring a sense of love to that space? Can you hold even those most uncomfortable emotions with a sense of love and support and care? If you tune in and you feel this oppressive contraction in your chest, something that feels really awful, something that even makes you want to burst into tears, it's okay. Tune into it with love. Hold it with compassion and give it the space that it needs to just be there. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to change anything about it. Remember that emotions cannot hurt you, and they will not last forever. If you let them go without reinforcing them with more thoughts and more stories, they will leave on their own, just like clouds blowing through. And don't get attached to the fact that they have left, because they might appear again. And that's okay, because you have the strength and the tools to handle them in the future. So as we wrap up, take a minute to come back to your breath and focus on it coming back into the nose and deep into the chest and into the belly and back out. And on the exhalation, picture it taking any unwanted, stuck, discomfort, uncomfortable energy and just expelling it out of the nose, bringing in pure, comforting, energizing light. And feel that light and that breath suffusing the body, connecting it down into the earth, where you are supported and held and nourished. No matter what happens in life, you are supported and held and nourished, and you can handle anything that comes your way. When you're ready, come back and open your eyes. Take your time.